She was 8 months pregnant when she vanished. No goodbye, no phone call, no trace, just an open door and a cold cup of tea on the table. For 9 months her family searched, fighting rumors, holding on to hope. And then one morning, a baby was found, alone, wrapped in a blanket, with her name on it. But the mother, still missing. What really happened to Claire Madsen, and who left that baby at the hospital in the middle of the night? Before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? There are places that seem untouched by tragedy. Burlington, Vermont, was one of them. Tucked between still lakes and autumn-drenched trees, the town looked like it had been painted from memory, peaceful, quiet, and honest. The kind of place where mailmen waved at your dog, where the church bell still rang on Sundays, and where the local diner's pancakes were reason enough to stay. In winter, soft snow would blanket the porches like powdered sugar. In fall, the sidewalks were lined with the crackle of crisp leaves and the scent of firewood and maple syrup. Nothing awful was supposed to. But on the morning of December 4th, 2021, everything changed. At 6:43 a.m., Claire Madsen, a 31-year-old elementary school teacher in her 8th month of pregnancy, was reported missing by her neighbor, Diane Miller. Her front door was slightly ajar. The TV in the living room still glowed blue. Her coat was hanging on the hook. A half-finished cup of chamomile tea had gone cold on the kitchen table, and Claire was gone. There was no note, no signs of forced entry, no calls made from her phone, no witness statements, no security footage, no tire tracks. No sound, no struggle, just the silence. Even the dog she was fostering, a gentle Labrador named Moose, was still asleep in his crate. It was as if Claire had vanished mid-breath. By noon, the police had cordoned off her street, setting up yellow tape that fluttered weakly in the December wind. Reporters hadn't arrived yet. Burlington didn't usually make headlines. But this was different. Claire was 8 months pregnant. Her belly was prominent, visible even under coats. Everyone in town knew she was expecting a little girl. They had thrown her a baby shower, bought her pink onesies, helped her choose names. Hope. That was the one she had circled. Now all that remained of Claire was a crib she had built alone in her bedroom, a calendar with the due date highlighted in purple, and a sealed box of tiny socks labeled 3-6 months. The air inside her home was still, frozen. Even the plants on her windowsill had started to wilt, as if they sensed something wasn't right. Detective James Collier stood in the hallway of the small house, hands in the pockets of his old wool coat, letting his eyes move over the space. No blood, no broken glass, no smell of bleach. But something was wrong. The hallway light flickered. Then again. He looked up. "Faulty wiring?" he asked the responding officer. The young cop shrugged. Collier's eyes moved back to the tea on the table, still steeping. The string of the tea bag hung limp over the rim. She couldn't have gone far, not like that, not in the cold, not without shoes. Over the next days, her case spread through the community like smoke. The flyers were pink, the same shade as the nursery walls. Missing, Claire Madsen. Last seen December 3rd, around 10:45 p.m. 33 weeks pregnant, blonde hair, brown eyes, 5'7". If seen, call the Burlington Police Department. Beneath her photo, people scribbled prayers. Someone left flowers. Others murmured theories. Maybe she ran away. No way. She loved that baby. Maybe the father found out. Which one? That last comment stung. Claire had always kept quiet about the pregnancy's origins. Some assumed it was her ex-husband. Others believed she had gone to a clinic in Montpellier. She never confirmed either story. Now that silence had its own gravity. Snow began to fall steadily 3 days later. The town moved on, a little colder. Christmas came and went. Claire's house stayed locked except for when Samantha Madsen, her older sister, flew in from California and took over the case like it was her own. because to her it was. Samantha remembered the last voicemail Claire had left. "Hey, just checking in. I know you're busy, I don't know. Lately I've been feeling watched. Maybe it's nothing, probably is. But if something happens, just know I love you, okay? That's all, love you." She'd listened to that voicemail 64 times, the pauses, the little crack in her voice. And that sentence, "If something happens." Samantha couldn't sleep after that. Back in town, locals whispered in church pews and grocery aisles. She was last seen wearing slippers. Slippers! Who disappears in slippers? By March, the case had gone cold. No leads, no ransom note, no body. The only piece of new information came from a 9-year-old boy who said he saw a woman in pajamas walking into the woods with a shadow behind her. But no prints had been found, no evidence, and children see things all the time. Eventually, even the flyers began to peel from telephone poles. But then, on September 10th, 2022, exactly 9 months and 6 days after Claire vanished, a nurse working the night shift at Burlington Community Hospital opened the staff entrance at 4:17 a.m. and found something swaddled in a gray blanket. A baby girl, barely a few days old, with a small silver bracelet on her ankle. One word engraved, hope. No fingerprints, no surveillance, no witnesses, no sign of who left her there. But DNA confirmed the impossible. She was Claire's daughter, alive, healthy, perfect, and her mother was still gone. That was when everything changed again. The case reopened, the questions came back, and now even more than before, everyone wanted to know, where was Claire Madsen? Who had taken her? And how had only the baby made it out alive? Samantha stood on the porch of Claire's house that night, baby Hope asleep in her arms, wrapped in the same gray blanket. The porch light flickered once, then again, just like it had the day Claire vanished. And there, on the doormat, was something that hadn't been there an hour ago, torn at the edges. Claire in her pajamas, smiling, and behind her, barely visible in the corner of the frame, a man's reflection in the window. One Samantha had never seen before, but she would never forget his eyes. 1 year before Claire disappeared, she stood barefoot in her empty living room, hands on her stomach, watching the late autumn light spill across the floor like honey. The walls were bare, the couch hadn't arrived yet, neither had the crib, but the house felt alive, like it had been waiting for her. She closed her eyes and whispered, "You're safe now." She wasn't talking to the baby. Claire had always been quiet, but not forgettable. She wasn't the loudest voice in the teacher lounge or the most glamorous woman at the grocery store. But people remembered her because she listened, really listened. She remembered birthdays. She brought soup when people were sick. And her eyes had a softness that made children feel like Ned could ever happen again. But Claire had lived through enough to know that was a lie. She was 6 when her father left, 12 when her mother started drinking, 15 when she became the adult in the house. By 17, she had memorized how to check her mother's pulse, how to hide the bruises from nosy teachers, and how to pretend she was fine. Only her sister Samantha ever truly saw through it. But Samantha was 3 years older and had left for California as soon as she could. Claire stayed behind. She always stayed. When she married Daniel Price at 24, people thought it was a fairy tale. He was charming, clean-cut, had a job in real estate, and knew exactly what to say to make her laugh. But charm, Claire would later learn, is often used to cover rot. He never hit her. But silence can bruise too. So quando ela finalmente se divorciou aos 29, Claire prometeu a si mesma: "Nunca mais vou me perder para agradar alguém." E então, meses depois, ela descobriu que estava grávida. She didn't tell Danielle. She didn't tell anyone, not at first. Just Moose, the yellow Labrador she had started fostering, and the baby, whom she spoke to every night while rubbing her belly. "I don't know who you'll be," she'd whisper, But I already love you. I already want you to have everything I didn't. She started a journal. Pen and paper. Entry number 1. This house is old but beautiful. You'd like the creaky floors. There's a tree outside your window that sounds like it's breathing when the wind hits just right. I think I'll name you Hope, because that's what you are. The first real one I've had in a long time. She built the crib herself, refused help, painted the nursery walls a soft lavender, hung stars on the ceiling that glowed in the dark. Samantha offered to fly in, help with appointments, even stay until the birth. But Claire kept delaying. I need to do this on my own, she said. Samantha didn't argue. She knew her sister too well. Knew she didn't ask for help unless she was drowning. And Claire wasn't drowning, not yet. The days moved slowly that fall. Claire's routine was simple: morning walks with Moose, afternoons at the school, evenings journaling, reading, planning. But she had a habit of checking the locks twice. And keeping the curtains closed. She never said why. One afternoon, in late October, Claire walked into a bookstore downtown and asked for a book about self-defense. The clerk, a woman named Jordan, offered her a confused smile. For you? Claire nodded. I've just been feeling uneasy lately. Jordan tilted her head. You're like the safest person I know. Claire didn't answer. She paid in cash. In the school parking lot, one of her students' parents, Angela Corrine, approached her, visibly nervous. Claire, she said, this might sound weird, but was someone following you yesterday? Claire blinked. What? I was leaving the post office and I saw a guy across the street, just staring at your car, didn't move. He was wearing a gray hoodie. I thought it was odd, but maybe I'm overthinking. Claire smiled too quickly. Probably nothing. Angela nodded, but her eyes lingered. That night, Claire made another journal entry. I think someone's been watching me. Moose barked at the window again, and I found boot prints by the back steps. I didn't tell Sam. She'd get on a plane and turn this whole thing into a crime scene. I'm probably just being... Hormones, right? That's what they always say. But if you're reading this and something has happened, please know I didn't just walk away. I would never leave you, not by choice. Claire's last known appearance in public was at the local farmers market on Saturday, December 3rd, around 10:30 a.m. She wore a long coat, bought pears and fresh bread, paid in cash. The vendor remembered her smile. He said she seemed distant, like she was listening for something or someone. That night she called Samantha and left a voicemail. Then she made herself tea, lit a candle, put on a playlist of soft piano music. She opened her journal and wrote one last thing. I dreamed about the name again, Hope. It feels right, like it came from you, not me. In her bedroom, a lavender star on the ceiling flickered. The wind knocked gently against the windows. The tea grew cold, and somewhere in the darkness outside, someone was waiting. The next morning, Moose was barking at the window, but no one was there, and the front door was ajar. Inside the house, the music was still playing. A piano cover of You Are My Sunshine, except Claire was gone. The week after the baby was found, Samantha moved back into Claire's house. She didn't want to. Every room felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by memory. The kitchen smelled like chamomile and unsaid things. The bedroom still held Claire's coat, slung neatly over a chair. On the fridge was a magnet that read, "One day at a time." But that day, the one that took Claire, still had no explanation. And now there was a baby, Hope. She looked just like her mother. Same wide brown eyes, same tiny cleft in the chin. The hospital confirmed it with a DNA test. Claire's child. But no Claire. No fingerprints on the blanket. No DNA from anyone else. No camera footage. No witnesses. Just a baby. Samantha started going through Claire's things, looking. Her journal was gone. Only one page had been left behind, ripped out, tucked under the crib. It read, "If she's born and I'm not here, Tell her I sang to her every night. Tell her I picked her name because I believed we could survive anything." Samantha cried for the first time in months. Then she put on gloves and began searching. There was a storage box in the attic Claire had labeled "personal." Inside, old letters, photos, and a cheap phone without a SIM card. The phone only had two things: a blurry photo of Claire standing in her backyard looking nervous, a voice recording. 12 seconds long. "You don't have to do this. Please, I'm not going to say anything. Just let me—" No one else's voice. No answer. Just Claire, scared. Samantha's heart pounded. She took the phone to the police. Detective James Collier had returned from retirement the day Hope was found. He wasn't ready to let go of. Something had never sat right with him. The tea, the open door, the neighbor who claimed she heard a knock at 2 a.m. but didn't check. Now, this phone. He stared at the recording again. Claire wasn't the kind of woman to run. He remembered her calm voice when she called to report a lost dog once. She didn't stutter, didn't panic. But in that recording, she sounded terrified. Meanwhile, the town started whispering again. People claimed they saw a man near the hospital that night. One nurse remembered hearing a car engine, but no vehicle was recorded entering or leaving. A baby monitor in the NICU picked up faint humming. No one could identify the melody, but Samantha could. She played it back once, then a second time. She whispered, "You are my sunshine." The same song playing in Claire's house the night she vanished. Claire's ex-husband, Daniel Price, was called in for questioning. He denied everything. "I haven't spoken to her in over a year," he said. "She didn't even tell me she was pregnant." "But she lived 3 blocks from you," Collier said, "and I didn't stalk her." He looked annoyed. Not grief-stricken. When they asked about vasectomy records, Daniel laughed. That was her idea, actually. Samantha didn't believe him. Back at Claire's house, Moose started growling at the back door again. Samantha checked. No one there. But in the snow, fresh boot prints, deep, heavy, and then they vanished halfway down the yard, as if the person had disappeared mid-step or been lifted. She called the police again. They told her to get security cameras. 2 days later, Samantha received a package. No return address. Inside, a baby onesie-sized newborn, a locket with the word Hope engraved, and a photograph, Claire, in a hospital gown, eyes glassy, holding a baby. It looked like the moment after birth. But there were no nurses, no hospital bed, no name tag, just a folding chair, and behind Claire, plastic sheets like in an unfinished basement. Someone had delivered Hope, somewhere hidden, and taken a photo. Collier examined the photo. No EXIF data, but he noticed something strange. A calendar in the background, the date circled, December 12th. That was 9 days after Claire vanished, so she had survived the first week. But where? And why had no one heard from her? Samantha couldn't sleep. She wandered the house at night, replayed every voicemail, every memory. One night, she heard the music again, faint. From Claire's old laptop, but it wasn't on. She opened it. There was only one file. If you read this.move. She hit play. It was Claire, eyes tired, voice Hope. "If you ever find me—" The video froze, then deleted itself. The next morning, someone spray-painted the word "liar" on Samantha's car. No cameras, no witnesses, just red paint. She washed it off herself, hands shaking. Back at the station, Collier was going through cold cases. He found something. A woman named Emily Crane had disappeared from Montpelier 3 years ago, 8 months pregnant, never found. Her case was unsolved. Only thing recovered? A bracelet that read, "Faith, Hope, Faith." He called Samantha immediately. Together, they searched Vermont birth records. No baby registered under either name, no hospital claims. It was as if both children had been born off-grid. Then another envelope arrived. Inside, a newspaper clipping, a note that read, "She wasn't the first." The article was from 1996. Woman, missing. Pregnant, never found. Her name, Grace Harmon. Samantha went to the library. Found the original article. In the photo, Grace stood in front of her home, smiling. Behind her, in the window, barely visible, the same man's reflection that appeared in Claire's torn photo. Same eyes, same posture, same haunting stare. But that was impossible. That photo was taken 26 years ago. At midnight, Samantha received a message. Blocked number, just a single line. Stop digging or she disappears for good this time. Attached, another photo. Claire, still alive, eyes swollen. Behind her, a clock. The time, 2:17 a.m., today's date. The photo of Claire, alive, gagged, and terrified, changed everything. Detective Collier forwarded it to federal authorities, who immediately launched a regional investigation. She had already printed out the image and pinned it to Claire's wall, right above the crib. Underneath, she wrote, "Alive." It became her mantra. They revisited everyone Claire had interacted with in the weeks before she vanished. Diane Miller, the neighbor, said she heard music playing that night, a low piano melody, but something else, too. A car door, she said, then footsteps, then nothing. What time? Little after 2. Same time shown in the photo. Diane bit her lip. There was one more thing. Samantha leaned in. A voice, a man's voice. Calm. He said, "She's ready now." Samantha and Collier reviewed all known associates of Claire. One name stood out, Jackson Kay, son of Reverend Ellen Kay. Claire and Jackson had gone to high school together, quiet, smart, odd. He'd been institutionalized briefly after his father died. Recently released. Now worked part-time at a hardware store, no criminal record. But no alibi for the night of the disappearance. Samantha remembered something. A photo of Claire at the town fair 2 months before she vanished. In the background, Jackson, watching her. They brought him in for questioning. He was polite, soft-spoken, wore a windbreaker and kept his hands folded. Said he hadn't seen Claire in years, didn't know she was pregnant, didn't know anything about a baby. But when shown the photo of Claire tied up, his hand started shaking. She's not dead?" he asked. "No," Collier said, "but she will be, if we don't find her." Jackson bit his lip, then asked for a lawyer. Later that night, Collier returned to the police station alone. In Claire's file, he found something he had missed before. A note from her OB-GYN. She had missed her last 2 prenatal appointments, one canceled, one no-show. Date of the last appointment. December 3rd, the day she vanished. Meanwhile, Samantha was digging deeper into the other missing women, Emily Crane, Grace Harmon. And now a 4th case had surfaced, Lisa McCoy. Disappeared in 1987, 7 months pregnant, never found. All women between 25-35, all quiet, kind, community-minded, all vanished in winter. And each had mentioned in letters, journals, or voicemails someone watching them. It was a pattern. But no one had ever connected them before. Then came the breakthrough. Samantha received a brown envelope at the doorstep. Inside, a journal, Claire's. It was stained, worn, and several pages were missing. But the entries were intact. She sat down and began reading, December 1st, I saw him again. The man in the gray hoodie. He was across the street from the school this time, just staring, like he was memorizing me. December 2nd, I heard someone breathing outside the nursery window. Moose barked like crazy. I didn't open the blinds. I was afraid of what I'd see. December 3rd, I don't want to go to the appointment. I have a bad feeling. I keep hearing music at night. And sometimes I wake up, and the front door is unlocked. I swear I locked it. Samantha's hand trembled. She flipped to the last page. If someone finds this, I think he wants the baby, not me. And I think I know why. Please, don't let him take her. She brought the journal to Collier. They examined the handwriting, verified it was Claire's. "It's a confession," he said. "But of what?" Samantha stared at the line. "I think I know why." "Why?" "Why her?" That night Collier visited the Reverend. Ellen Kay. She was calm, stoic, said she didn't believe in gossip, believed in prayer. Said Jackson hadn't lived with her for months. "He moved out last year, rented a place north of town. I believe in boundaries." Collier asked for the address. She refused. "Jackson may be strange, detective, but he is not evil. Claire Madsen is missing. And many women go missing when the world refuses to see them." Collier. He found the address anyway. An old hunting cabin, half rotten and hidden deep in the woods. They searched it. Empty. But there was a crib, a pillow, and a faint smell of bleach. On the floor, a single photo stuck to the wood. Claire, eyes shut, holding a newborn. The timestamp, December 12th, 2021. 3:04 a.m. That night, Samantha went through her sister's voicemail archive again. She noticed something. A call from a blocked number 2 weeks before the disappearance. She played it. A man's voice, calm, gentle. "Claire, I just want to talk. Please don't be afraid. You were chosen for a reason. This child matters. She's part of something bigger. You'll understand soon." Samantha felt sick. The next morning, the FBI issued a new theory, that Claire had been held for 9 months, released or killed after the birth. But no body meant hope, and no perpetrator meant danger, especially for Hope. They offered to place the child in protective custody. Samantha refused. "She's all I have left." Later that week, Samantha noticed something odd in Claire's house, the music box on the dresser. She hadn't seen it before. When opened, it played "You Are My Sunshine." Inside, a note folded 5 times. "Don't let the light go out. She's still here, but not for long." She took the box to Collier. He had it dusted for prints. One match, Jackson Kay. But another partial print belonged to a woman, unknown. They ran it through the national database. Hit confirmed. The print belonged to Emily Crane, the woman who had disappeared 3 years ago. Samantha stared at the report. She was in Claire's house. Emily wasn't dead, or at least she hadn't been. She had been alive long enough to touch that box, which meant the man wasn't working alone. There was a woman involved, maybe more than one, a network or a belief. Samantha said it first. "They're taking mothers for the babies." At 3:18 a.m., Samantha woke up to Hope crying. She rushed to the crib. A note lay beside the baby. No footprints, no broken locks, no signs of entry. Just the note. Handwritten. "We only needed the child, but you keep digging. So now you've made it personal. Don't say we didn't warn you." The moment Samantha read the note beside Hope's crib, she knew this wasn't about one woman anymore. It was about many, and it was still happening. She called Collier, who arrived in under 10 minutes. They examined the note. Same handwriting, same pen strokes as the one in the music box. This wasn't a new threat. It was a signature. At the FBI field office, analysts began connecting the cases of the missing pregnant women from the last 30 years. Patterns emerged. Geographical clustering. Similar profiles. All had disappeared within weeks of due dates. All were emotionally isolated. All had documented feelings of being watched. All had no clear paternal involvement, and all had vanished without a trace. The occasional baby found later, but only some babies had one. A name surfaced. A now-defunct clinic in upstate Vermont closed in 1997 after a quiet federal investigation. Publicly, it had been cited for improper storage of medical records. Privately, it had been investigated for unlicensed adoptions and undocumented births. Its name? New Haven Maternity Center. Samantha recognized it immediately. It was written on the back of one of Claire's ultrasound photos. They drove there the next morning. The building was abandoned, graffiti on the walls, boards on the windows. But inside, Samantha found a storage room filled with rusted file cabinets. Collier picked a lock. Inside, boxes of records, handwritten, fragile. They combed through the files by flashlight, and there, under December 1991 deliveries, Samantha found a name that stopped her breath. Samantha Madsen, her own. Her hands trembled as she pulled the file, her birth record, but not just hers. Next to her name, Mother. Claire Madsen, not her sister. Her mother. Samantha fell to her knees. The woman she thought was her sister, her best friend, her only family, had been her mother all along. She flipped the file. Attached, a note from a social worker. Due to the mother's age, 15, and emotional trauma, child will be raised as sibling. Claire insists this is the only way. Family notified. Collier knelt beside her. This is why she was so protective of you, She never wanted you to know. The air turned cold. Samantha's entire world fractured in seconds. Claire had given up her motherhood to protect her child, and now Samantha was protecting Claire's second daughter. History repeating itself. Back at Claire's house, Samantha sat in silence for hours. The truth rearranged everything. The memories, the gestures, the soft warnings. Even the voicemail Claire left now sounded different. If something happens, just know I love you, okay? She wasn't just a sister. She was a mother. Meanwhile, forensic experts discovered something in the back of the journal. A page written in invisible ink revealed by heat. It read, "He calls it the continuance. Says some women are vessels, not mothers. That our job is to carry, not to raise. I think he's done this before. I think he has help. I think he was born at New Haven, too." Samantha froze. The man behind it all was a child born into this system, raised in silence. Now continuing the cycle, FBI agents ran birth records, matched fingerprints, and found him, Noah Reese, born 1984, delivered at New Haven, fostered until 7, adopted by a woman named Evelyn Reese, a midwife who once worked at the clinic. Both disappeared off-grid in 2003, resurfaced only once, in 2015, under aliases. Last known location, Burlington, Vermont. 6 blocks from Claire's home. They tracked down his registered vehicle, a van, old dark green, license plate expired. Surveillance located it, parked at an abandoned inn 20 miles outside town. The FBI moved in, guns drawn, dogs barking. The building was empty, but in the basement, a hidden room, plastic sheeting, a birthing chair, buckets of bleach, and a sound, a hum. "You Are My Sunshine" playing from an old cassette deck. On the wall, photos of every woman who had gone missing. Emily, Grace, Lisa, and Claire. In the most recent photo, taken just days ago, she was thinner, pale. But in the corner, a small wooden chest. Inside, a lock of blonde hair. A baby bracelet engraved Faith. And Claire's journal. The rest of it. Samantha held it like a lifeline. She read every word. And then she found the truth. Claire hadn't been alone. She had been with other women, trapped together. One by one, they disappeared. Some died, giving birth. Others were never seen again. But Claire? Claire fought. She faked compliance, earned Noah's trust. And when hope was born, she made one final plea. Let her live. Take her to the hospital. Let someone find her. I'll stay. I won't resist. Just promise me she'll live. And somehow he agreed. Claire made a trade, her life for her daughters. Then came the twist. The FBI recovered footage from an old security system at the inn, footage Noah had forgotten to erase. 1 week earlier, it showed someone entering the basement, a woman. She wasn't a prisoner. She carried a clipboard. She checked the temperature. She wrote notes. Samantha recognized her instantly, Reverend Ellen Kay. Jackson's mother, the woman who had claimed to know nothing. She had known everything. Samantha stormed into the church, confronted Ellen in the pews. "You were part of it." Ellen looked tired, older than she had days ago. "I was trying to protect them," she said. "From what?" "From mothers who didn't want them, from children born unwanted." Samantha's voice broke. Claire wanted her child. She gave everything for her. Ellen shook her head. "She didn't give everything." "What does that mean?" "She's still alive." Claire hadn't died. She had escaped. 2 nights ago, with help from Emily Crane, she had survived. And now they were both in hiding, hunted, but alive. A burner phone rang on Claire's old nightstand. Unknown number. Samantha answered. The voice was familiar, shaky, soft, raw. "Sam, it's me." "Claire." "Alive." Samantha stood frozen with the phone to her ear. "Sam, it's me." Claire's voice, shaky, raspy, alive. It took her several seconds to breathe. "Keith Friedrich, where are you?" Samantha whispered. "I'm safe. For now." "Are you hurt?" "I've had better months." Samantha choked back a sob. "Why didn't you call me?" "Because if they knew I was alive, they'd never stop." That night, the FBI traced the call to a secure line routed through a burner tower in Canada. Claire and Emily were hiding in a church basement near the border. A Catholic nun had found them wandering, barefoot, hungry, carrying only one thing, Claire's journal. Emily had lost a finger during her escape. Claire had broken ribs, but they were alive. Samantha was granted clearance to see Claire 48 hours later. The reunion happened in a small medical tent under dim light, while agents stood outside with rifles. When Claire saw Samantha, she didn't speak. She just stared at her like she was afraid she'd vanish again. Samantha rushed forward. They held each other, longer than any words could have lasted. When they finally sat down, Claire looked different. Thinner, eyes sunken, shoulders permanently tensed. But when she asked, "How's Hope?" her voice cracked. Samantha pulled out a photo from her coat. "She's perfect. She has your cheeks." Claire covered her mouth and sobbed. "I thought I'd never see her." "You gave everything for her." "I had no choice." "Yes," Samantha said. "You did." Later, over tea, Samantha handed Claire the birth file she had found in the abandoned clinic. "You lied to me my entire life," she said quietly. Claire nodded. "I couldn't be your mother, not then. I was 15. I was scared, and they said you'd be better off thinking I was your sister." Tears fell. Samantha looked down. "I spent years hating Mom, for being cold, for disappearing into herself. But all along, it was you." Claire wiped her face. "I never stopped loving you." "I know," Samantha said, and that was enough. Emily sat nearby, her hand bandaged. She didn't speak much. But when she did, she explained what happened inside the continuance. "It's not just a man," she said. "It's a belief. They think babies born without fathers, without intention, belong to the greater good, that the women are only vessels. And what happens to the babies? Some are placed in families, quietly, others—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Claire took her hand. "We stayed alive by pretending to believe, but Claire—" Emily looked at her with admiration. "She never broke. She kept fighting." Noah Reese was still missing. He had slipped through the cracks, left a note behind in the abandoned inn. "You will call me monster, but I was made by monsters. You will call me thief, but I saved those children from women who never wanted them. You will call me killer, but I never pulled a trigger. Tell me, what does that make you?" The FBI issued a nationwide manhunt. The Reverend was arrested and indicted for conspiracy and obstruction. She never apologized. She simply said, "We all answer to God eventually." Weeks passed. Samantha took Claire home. The town never looked at them the same again. Some offered flowers, others whispered. Some blamed Claire for hiding the truth. But those closest to her knew she was a survivor, and She was finally a mother. One afternoon, Samantha found Claire in the nursery, rocking Hope gently. The baby's eyes were half closed. The sun filtered in through lace curtains. "Did you ever sing to me like that?" Samantha asked. Claire smiled faintly. "Every night. You just didn't know it was me." Moose curled up on the rug. The music box sat on the dresser, still playing "You Are My Sunshine." And for the first time in a long time, there was peace. But peace never stays forever. 2 months later, Samantha received a package, no return address, inside a USB drive, and a note. "The system is bigger than him. This isn't over." Samantha stared at the screen, then at Hope in her crib. She closed the laptop and whispered to herself, "Then we don't stop either." Claire wasn't just a survivor of a crime. She was a survivor of 2 generations of silence. She had been a mother twice over, once in secret, once in captivity. But now she had reclaimed both daughters, and Hope was her legacy. Late that night, a doorbell rang at 2:17 a.m. Claire froze. She walked to the door slowly. There was no one outside, only a single object on the welcome mat. A music box, identical to the one in Hope's nursery, but this one was playing backwards. 1 year later, spring in Burlington had returned with pale sunlight and soft winds. The snow was gone, the trees were in bloom again, and for the first time in a long time, the house at the end of Sycamore Lane felt like a home. Samantha walked past the porch carrying groceries. Moose barked once, tail wagging. Inside, Claire sat at the kitchen table, Hope asleep against her chair. Her eyes were half closed. Her hand gently brushed through Hope's hair. There was no music playing, just the soft tick of the clock. Peace. Quiet. The kind that once felt impossible. Claire still woke up from nightmares sometimes, memories that returned in pieces. The smell of bleach, the hum of the basement light, the voice whispering, "Push now." But each time she reminded herself, that was then, this is now. And she'd go to the crib, watch Hope breathing, and return to bed. Samantha wrote an article. She called it, "The Ones We Never Talk About." It didn't name Claire, but it spoke of a pattern, a system, a silence too big to be random. It went viral. Women from small towns across the country reached out. Some had lost daughters. Some had given birth under strange circumstances. Some just said, "I thought I was crazy. Now I know I wasn't alone." An investigation was reopened into the New Haven Maternity Center. Several former employees were indicted. But Noah Reese was never found. The music box left on Claire's porch was now in FBI custody. When played backwards, it revealed a hidden track, a voice, distorted but clear. There are others, watching, waiting. Some of us were born for this. You can't stop what you don't understand. It was his final taunt, but it had lost its power, because the women he once controlled were now speaking. Emily moved in with her aunt in New Hampshire. She started therapy. Sometimes she and Claire spoke on the phone late at night. Neither said much. They didn't need to. Silence had its own language now. Hope turned one on a rainy Thursday. They made cupcakes. Moose wore a party hat. Claire sang softly as she lit the candle. "You are my sunshine." And Hope clapped. Not because she understood, but because her mother smiled when she did. That night, Samantha sat by the window, a glass of wine in hand. She looked at an old photograph Claire had taken years ago. 2 girls on a swing set, one older, one younger, but now she knew the truth. They weren't sisters. They were something deeper. A mother and a daughter who had found each other through fire and refused to let go. She whispered toward the nursery, "Thank you for choosing me." In the drawer beside her bed was a letter Claire had written during her captivity. She had never meant for anyone to read it, but now it felt right. Samantha unfolded it slowly. If I don't make it out, tell her I tried. Tell her I dreamed of her eyes, even when I couldn't see. Tell her she was never a mistake. Not her, not the first one, not the second. I did the best I could. And if love counts for anything, maybe that's enough. Samantha closed her eyes. Weeks later, Claire planted a garden in the backyard. She said it helped. Digging, turning soil, planting new life in a place where something had once died. Hope toddled beside her, dirt on her cheeks. She pointed at a purple flower and said, "Mama." Claire knelt, held her close, and whispered, "I'll never leave you." That night, Claire sat at the window and wrote in a new journal. The first page read, "Dear Hope, if you're reading this, it means I gave you a life worth remembering. It means I broke the cycle. And it means love won." Outside, wind rustled the trees, soft, gentle, the kind of sound that doesn't frighten anymore. Claire looked up at the night sky and for the first time in years breathed without fear. She placed the journal on the table, lit a candle, made a cup of tea, and whispered into the silence, "You're safe now."